Alright, hey guys, welcome back to another video. I know it's been a while since I posted last. I think it's about 7 months. But, yeah, I'm finally back, and I figured, hey, why not start it off again with a Earth to Moon tutorial? This time with a voiceover instead of just text commentary like I did in my first one. It should make it a lot easier to follow. But yeah, without further ado, let's get right into the build. You're going to start off with 6 wide parts. This is going to form like the main central core stage of your rocket. I just add those little fins on there because they look nice and they add a little bit more fuel and more space to add engines. And this is going to be the stage that gets us from orbit to the moon, is that one I just added, and the one I'm moving now is the lander stage with the capsule on top. Please don't forget to add a heat shield. That is very important, because if you don't add that, you will burn up in the atmosphere, and that's never fun. Right now I'm adding side separators so that we can have some boosters. You do have to add these 2x1 structure, or 2x1/2, I guess, if you're technically talking about the grid squares, but you have to add those on the sides of the side separators so that the boosters don't clip into the little fins on the bottom of the rocket there. Now, the reason I have the fuel tank with the fins on it, which you'll see in a second, I can add 2 Hawk engines instead of 1, because I tried to go for a no part clipping rocket here. So now that that's done, I'm going to add some staging just so it's easier for me. And you don't have to add staging, it's just a lot easier if you do, because that way you don't have to manually press everything. Now, what I like to do is have staging in the engine and the separator in one stage instead of 2. Like, instead of separating and then having to press the staging button again to turn the engines on for that stage, I have it all in one. It's just so much easier that way. Alright, going quickly back through the staging, we have the main engine, separators, the tug stage, I guess we can call it. Lander, the landing legs, separator for the capsule, and then finally the parachute. Feel free to go back in and double check everything if you want to. You can go back in the video, slow it down if you have to. Now, I'm just painting up the rocket here because I like personally how it looks. If you don't have the painting, I guess DLC, you don't have to paint it necessarily. It doesn't affect the rocket at all. Just makes it look nicer. Like, I personally don't like the all-white look. But I know there are people out there that might. Just adding these stripes on because they look better than, like I said, all white. But let's get into the launch. Alright, and now that we're on the launch pad, you throttle up your rocket, turn the engines on, press the stage button, and we're up, and away. Now you can see that number on the top right, or 2 numbers on the top right, I should say. And a little text above that says angle. What that means is that is the angle you want your rocket to be facing to ensure proper turn on launch. The number on the left of the slash is the current angle of your rocket, and the number on the right is the one that you want your rocket to be at. You can see the one on the right changes, and then I turn to match that. Now, if you're not exactly there, it's fine. It kind of just automatically snaps to that number, even if you're not exactly there. When you're within like 2 degrees, it does it. And we're now I throttled down a little bit to funnily enough 69%. I know that is such a dead joke, but I did not intend to do that. But sometimes if you upset a really efficient rocket, you punch through the atmosphere so quickly that you begin to heat up like you're re-entering. And this can cause inefficiencies within your rocket, so that's never good. So you just have to throttle down if you're going that fast. Alright, now we're going to use the fun new, well, not new, but the time warp here button, just so you don't overshoot your the point of time warp here. Trust me, it comes in handy. I've used it so many times. Because sometimes I'll overshoot where I have to time warp to, and then I have to restart. But yeah, just using the time warp here button is so much fun. Or so much more fun, I guess. Now what you want to do is you want to keep burning until you reach a stable orbit. Now you want to keep that dot with the height above away from where you are, more to the right of the screen, I guess would be the best way to say it, in front of you, until you reach a stable orbit, because otherwise you're gonna go past it And the best way to do that is to angle your rocket up, and that'll push it away from you if you don't have the engine power, but you should be fine with this rocket. I added plenty of fuel in here. If you make any mistakes, you should be fine. And as you saw, I clicked the navigate here button, and I waited for the transfer window. Blah. And now that we're at the transfer window, you point towards where it wants you to be. So that little dotted line that shows up, and you just turn your engines on and go. So there's our core stages out of fuel. So this stage is going to be what gets us all the way to the moon, actually, believe it or not. I packed quite a bit more fuel than you need in this stage. Like, I actually end up making it to the moon and having to ditch this stage with like 50 or 60% fuel left. Now, you want to get within like 10 kilometers is typically what I do of the moon. Like I just did there, I'm at like 7,500 meters, I think it is. Yeah, 7,460. And then just use the time warp here button. If you're new, still, don't risk time warping manually. You might miss your target, and then you have to redo it or revert by 30 seconds. It's never fun. Alright, and here we are at the moon now. So, what you have to do is wait until you get close to where that little marker is of your height. That is your periapsis, which is the lowest point in your orbit. And just burn away from it, the opposite direction you would from getting into orbit. Like if you're burning towards the right side of the screen to get into orbit, you're burning with your arrow pointing towards the left to decelerate. And then now you want to time up to the higher point of your orbit, which is called your apoapsis. And for me, it's like 92.3 kilometers, I think that says. And you want to decelerate more, but now it'll bring your periapsis down to the surface of the moon, because that way you save fuel. Instead of having to drop 92.3 kilometers, you can only drop 7,000 meters down. It just is easier on the fuel. Now you can see I still have a lot of fuel here. I just time warped down to about 5,000 meters. That's the minimum you can time warp to. And I'm just burning slowly, just making sure I'm still staying on target. Well, not really target. You don't have to land anywhere specific. I know I didn't. But always try and take care of your horizontal velocity, because you can see it's a hell of a lot more than my vertical velocity. It was like 200 something meters a second, while my vertical velocity was like 48. Once you get them down to about the same number, you can start working on both of them, start decelerating. Unless you're getting too low, then please don't do that. You'll just crash into the ground. Now, I don't know why I flipped over there. I think I tried to get down faster. And I was aiming for that crater that I was right above. There's like a little crater there. And you can see I still have like 50% fuel in this stage. So I actually had to drop it. And now I brought down the landing legs. Barely, you don't have to bring it down that early, but I did. And I burned a little bit just so I could get some separation between me and the stage I dropped. So that way it hits into the moon below before I have to land. And here I am. I'm just fixing my horizontal velocity because I like to try and land with 0 horizontal velocity at all. Just so I don't have to slide over the surface to stop. Now, we're going pretty quick, but this stage has plenty of power. Just make sure not to do it too late like I almost did. We almost slammed into the moon right there. Unfortunately, the bottom stage that I dropped didn't break, so I had to clear debris just to make sure I didn't hit it. Did a little hop there because I accidentally throttled up too much. And slowly touched down. And there we go. We're on the moon. So you can see the other arrows there from previous videos and things, like I got my moon base and all that fun stuff. But stay here as long as you want. We're going to head right back, so I just pressed navigate to on the Earth. And you're going to do this like a launch off from the Earth, except it's going to be a lot easier because the moon has a lot less gravity and it's way smaller. Now, depending on where you are and where you are in relation to the Earth, you might get a transfer window right away. Don't try and burn towards that transfer window. It's going to be a lot less fuel efficient. You want to get into a stable orbit first if you have, Not even if you have the fuel. You want to get into a stable orbit first, no matter what. I typically aim for about 7,000 meters to 10 kilometers. Somewhere in there. Just because that means you're definitely not going to hit anything. You're not going to just decelerate randomly if you burn the wrong way so much that you fall back down. It's just a good spot, sweet spot to aim for is, like I said, 7,000 meters, 10 kilometers, somewhere in there. So, if you have less fuel, you want to definitely aim as low as you can, which would be about like 5,000 to 6,000 meters. But, yeah, that's just a good range to be in. And then treat it like a normal orbit. You don't have to make sure that that dot's in front of you because you won't fall down as quickly as on Earth. You won't come back down as quick, so it's a lot easier to get into an orbit. And now I'm time warping over to the transfer window. So you can see instead of like 600 meters a second or whatever it was to get here, it's only like 100 meters a second to get back. And there we go. I'm just closing down the orbit a little bit. I'm not going to follow it exactly. You don't have to either. Like I went a little bit lower than it. Not that by that much, but I did go a little bit lower. You can go a little bit lower if you want to stay in the atmosphere, orbit around the Earth and do something there. If you have the fuel, you can do that. But when you're ready to re-enter, go up to your apoapsis, which, like I said, is the highest point in your orbit, and decelerate from there so you can save fuel. We're coming up on the surface of the not the surface, the atmosphere. So once I was deciding just to kill off any more speed that I could. I was originally going to burn all that fuel, but I knew I wouldn't have time. So I dropped the stage there just to make some separation between me and it. And here we go, re-entering the atmosphere, coming back from the moon. Now, you want to keep your heat shield pointed towards your direction of travel. You shouldn't have to do that many adjustments. There's some little explosions there from the stage burning up. But if you flip over, you're gonna have the same fate as that stage. You'll just burn up, and then you have to redo everything, or revert to 30 seconds. I keep forgetting that's a thing now. But yeah, you're gonna see our heat shield is gonna get pretty hot, but you should be fine. Because the only places that can really burn up, I've tested this, is I think Mars and the like one gas giant they have in the game, which is, I think it's Saturn? I haven't gone in a while. It's Saturn or Jupiter. I'm pretty sure it's Jupiter, actually. I don't remember. Feel free to comment on which it is, if either of them. But yeah, we're pretty much back. You can see our heat shield is starting to cool off, even though we do have flames around us still. Now, I personally don't like to open my parachute at the minimum height of 2,500 meters, or maximum height, I guess. I typically open mine like 1,000 to 500 meters off the ground. I know it's cutting really close, but it just makes getting down that much quicker. So now you can see, you can drop the heat shield now if you want to. There's really no point in dropping it or keeping it. You can do whatever you want at this part, really. Like, it doesn't affect anything anymore. Since you're so low in the atmosphere and you're going so super slow now compared to before, you can just drop it or keep it. It doesn't really matter. Now we're getting down to 1,300 meters, 1,200, 1,100, and if, like I said, I typically deploy it. There it is at about 1,000 to 500 meters. Just because it takes a while to float down after you deploy it. And if you didn't know this, you don't have to actually click it again to fully deploy it after 500 meters. It'll automatically fully deploy at about 2 to 250 meters for you. So you just have to stage once to deploy it, or click it to deploy it if you didn't do staging. And like you can see right there, it automatically fully deployed at about 200 meters. So now it's just a little bit of a waiting game while we float down to the surface. And I'm going to take this time to ask you guys if you have any future video ideas that you want, or games you want me to play, things you want me to do in Spaceflight Simulator or PTFS, something like that. Please do make sure and leave a comment down below on what you want to see. I'll probably see it. because unfortunately I don't get that many comments as of right now. Hopefully we'll change that someday soon. But yeah, if there's any videos you guys want me to do, or any games you want me to play, let me know. And if you really like this video, please make sure to like. And if you really enjoyed, please make sure to subscribe. It means a lot, and it'll help me get back on my feet after like 7 months of not posting. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.